My ace, my heater, maybe.
I'm not sure. 48-hour art check, round 187. I'm hoping that was way quieter for the viewer than it was for me, because that was really loud.
Yeah, it was pretty loud.
Is that noise gone now?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, so I guess I get to freeze. But no, just kidding. It's not that cold here.
Is it like down in the 70s for you, Scott?
Yeah, that's cold for me. Yeah, if anyone's wondering what we're talking about, my heater was on. It was making a noise, so I had to shut it off.
I get it, because during the summer we run a swamp cooler, and it's like anytime we're recording, I have to turn it off. So it's like slowly becomes like a mini sauna while we're.
Yeah. Actually, it heated up fine. Now I'm hot, so now I got to take off my hoodie. So.
Oh man,
Cory.
Yeah. Let's see. I think it has warmed up to like the mid 30s. So anyway, we've got Caitlin and Kayla and Victor.
Nice.
That's Caitlin and Kayla had their first art check where they were in the same room today. I think that was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's cool they're still going strong with the 48-hour art check. That's cool.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Caitlin in person in a while. She dropped by my office today, so that was fun. So, all right, should we do it?
Let's do it.
Okay, I will go first if I can find the button. So, I have my 6th Laurel and my 6th Rejection. So I'm going to be at the Eurasia International Monthly Film Festival in addition to a few others. So that's kind of cool. And then I also have been brainstorming. That's not going away. Sorry, everyone.
I never noticed. I don't know if you've mentioned this before, but I just noticed the laurels were like bug legs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep on branding. This is usually how I get my frustration out on anything is I make stuff about it. And so these are the beginnings of, I've written a significant amount of dialogue. This will probably be my first animation with dialogue, kind of Jim Lujan style. And this is the beginnings of the storyboards for a fictional company that totally has no relation to any companies in real life, called Schmoogle Book, that goes up against the FTC and is moving towards wearable tech to try to control the populace. And it's a boardroom meeting behind closed doors about what they're going to be doing in the future. So Schmoogle Book is coming to screens near you, and I'm not doing film festivals with it or anything, so it'll be. I'm just going to release it, ironically, probably on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Vimeo. So
I love it.
Yeah, so I particularly like this wearable tech implant device that is coming, and then this big. I also am calling out to Neon Genesis Evangelion scenes with some of these, and so it'll be kind of fun. And some of the characters are physically modeled after people in Silicon Valley. So that's kind of a fun project that I.
It reminds me, I art directed a commercial for LifeLock. Actually, back then it was called ID Lock before early on in the when it first came out, and it was kind of this hacker, and he had all these screens and stuff, and I thought, hey, that's crazy. No one has this, and now I'm right here. I'm staring at like these 3 big screens.
That's awesome.
I love it.
So, Kayla has said that it's 19 degrees outside, which is nice. Let's see. All right, Josh, what have you gotten done?
Okay, so I have absolutely nothing to show.
We're gonna go full screen for this.
Yes, nothing to show. Failed epically. The day I got off of work. Like I've taken this week off, so I have this whole week off. But it's like Saturday, I just got hit with like this stomach sickness. Sunday carried through. Today's the first day I'm feeling kind of normal. Spent most of the day like cleaning out the garage and like doing like around the house stuff, and I literally haven't touched drawing, and that's definitely a problem. So yeah, it's been interesting, but absolutely nothing to show.
All right.
What?
So you finish your last page and then you just get sick.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's like a weird mental thing, and I've caught that I do this pretty often, where I think subconsciously, like my body just kind of denies the ability to get sick until I'm on vacation, and then the second I'm out of work, where I'm relaxed, it's like I don't know, my antibodies just like relax too, and then they're like, it's sickness just spreads like madman.
Yeah. All right, Scott, progress.
Well, I grossly underestimated how long it takes to refinish kitchen cabinets. So where I thought last week that I would be able to do it in a weekend, that didn't happen, and it ended up carrying on all the way through. I think like through Saturday and some of Sunday, like it just, I mean, there's just, it was part of it was like the dry time. You had to wait for all that stuff, but so I mean that took up the majority of my week, but that is pretty much done except for I have to do like some crown molding, but it's all up and it looks good, and that's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So it's kind of like I feel like a sense of accomplishment. But as far as all the other stuff, most of the other stuff, it kind of got pushed out. So I guess we'll get into this with to-dos and stuff, but I'm hoping that since, I mean, for me, it's, every day I work for myself and everything. So every day is kind of like, I don't know, but I don't think people are really expecting, anything this week with the holidays and stuff. So I'm hoping I'll get the catch up on stuff, but I did put up I did edit, film and edit a video and everything, just little things like I shipped out some orders. I'm working on, getting some stuff ready for, doing a Black Friday sale and a newsletter to send out and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, not still, like the website keeps getting pushed out and all my digital products that I've been meaning to work on getting pushed out. So anyway, that's kind of what's been going on.
Cool. I have to point out the Victor's play on words here. Since I was going for a very Neon Genesis Evangelion vibe, he said the nerve of you, Cory, the nerve. So that is as nerdy a joke as you're going to get. And I appreciate it and applaud it. All right. So challenges. For me, challenges, it is that point in time in the semester where everything's going nuts. And I'm having to cram like a week's worth of stuff into a day because of Thanksgiving. That's always really hard. And then my wife decided to clean out the garage today, so that took up a ton of time as well. And also, I'm rewriting a course and revamping a textbook I wrote a number of years ago, and I have like 3 weeks to do that before it needs to go live, which I don't know how to describe how much work that is, but it's a lot. And so I'm really not like getting to my studio until like 10 p.m. So I am limited. And then I've also been kind of sick as well. I took my first day off work, morning off of work, I guess, a little while ago, and I've been kind of recovering since then. So, yeah. Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on most of it. It's just being sick, being slightly burnt out. That's another part. And then also just diverted attention. Like I relate a lot to what Scott was talking about with the cabinets and stuff, because it's like when I was cleaning out the garage, I came across like this old guitar that I had, early in college, and like, the thing is just junked. And I was like, well, with this stuff I've been learning with like modding my electrics and stuff, maybe I could make this thing work, And so I finished the garage bit that I could, and then basically like spent a couple hours just like cleaning and kind of calibrating the guitar, just fixing the intonation and stuff. And weirdly enough, it works. But so now I have another acoustic, which I don't need, and it's like a cheap $100 guitar. So while I feel accomplished, I'm like, it really didn't move the goalpost anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, is like diverted attention. Like I need to get that target focus back on quarterlies, so that I can actually get it completed, because it's literally so close to the finish line, which is why I've been trying throughout the whole thing to not kind of think about it being the finish line, because I don't want to like sit back and be like, woohoo, it's all done, because it's not done until it hits print, so yeah, that's pretty much my challenges. Yeah, that's interesting, Victor. Mine was a stomach bug, so I don't know, that'll be interesting.
And Scott, challenges.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that with just the these projects that you think are gonna not take that long, and they end up taking like 5 times as long as you're expecting. So that was kind of my thing, and I started thinking about this just now, and I don't know if this, and also what Josh was talking about with the guitars and stuff, and maybe because I don't know if we settled on the topic, but I don't know why, when I say, oh, I didn't get to my artwork or whatever, but I don't know, maybe I should like look at this as a more of a holistic thing, because there's other things besides my art that I need to accomplish, and I really accomplished something pretty big, but for some reason I'm saying to myself, well, it's not necessarily art related, so I don't know, it seems like I failed, but really it was kind of an accomplishment. So yeah. I don't know if we should talk about like working our other projects that maybe not so much art related into our, our schedule, and what, and check those things off the list too, more of, the whole thing, whether it's family, where it's all that stuff. I kind of got away from that. For some reason, sometimes I don't include that into like things that I should be focusing on as well. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's good to celebrate successes wherever they come, and especially if it's not success by way of distraction, where I'm like, I sharpened all the pencils in my house. I didn't need to, but I was, whatever. But if it's actually something that you're like, no, I need to get this done, and I'm excited to get it done, and you get it done, I think that's great. So let's do plans. So plans for me, I am going to, let's see, where are we? I'm going to keep going on this storyboard. And so I've got it mainly like kind of the main things, but these are just like images that I had in my head that I wanted to get out. And I want to design like a bunch of the people that'll be on these screens. And then I'm going to do kind of like a mixed media thing with this. And I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to mix like live action in with the animation, because I've been experimenting with doing that a little bit. And so I'll probably make this fairly experimental. I'm trying to see if I can get this done while it's still relevant. And so I want to get it out pretty quickly. And so I'm going to see like what I can do as far as like fast rather than what I typically do, which is it would probably take me a couple months. So I'm gonna go for speed. And also I am traveling. starting tomorrow night. I'm going to drive in a blizzard 250 miles and then be out for the rest of the week and then drive back in what seems like will also be a blizzard. So we'll test out our Honda Pilot at high speeds in the snow. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
So, Josh, plans?
All right. So tomorrow, my band is going to be tracking vocals on our. It was a demo. Now I think it's looking more and more like it's going to be an EP. So we're going to be working on that. That'll probably take up most of the day. I would like to the next day at least have a start on thumbnails for the what I was talking about, like kind of the last art check. There's 3 kind of fake covers within, and I'm missing one, so I need to basically make a cover and then start thinking about author pages and cover pages as well. So I definitely need to get back on that. I did get back to exercise today, so I want to maintain that too, because when I was sick, that just throws that out the window. And so took a lot of willpower. It made me happy that my kid is who he is, because we were kind of hanging out and like watching videos and reading and building Legos and stuff. And I was like, yeah, you probably want me to just keep playing Legos with you, right? And not like work out. And he's like, no, you should go work out. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, we can have fun instead. And working out's not that important. He's like, no, working out is good. You need to go work out.
That's
so
awesome.
We're playing for a few more minutes, and my son's like, Dad, go work out.
That's great.
Like, this is kind of awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's way cool. Way cool. And Scott, plans?
So plans. I gotta kind of finalize everything for like my newsletter and like kind of like Black Friday or Cyber Week, whatever promotion. Get that thing out, and then Patreon. I think there's a few more Patreon rewards I have to work on, and I don't know. I've got some client work that I've got to work on as well. So that'll probably be the next 48 hours. And I know I won't see you guys. I don't think we're doing Artcasters this week. So other than that, just doing the Thanksgiving thing, and then after that, I usually put up Christmas lights. But this time, I think I want to try to paint my the trim around my house before I put up those lights. So I don't know, in my patio, so more home improvement stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's cool. That's important stuff too. You gotta keep up your house. So.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna put this up while we discuss our topic. But if anybody in the chat has any ideas, we're trying to get back into the. I'm trying to prep for. We're gonna bring on a team of people to do some of the back end podcasting stuff with this, and so having kind of a visual up is helpful. But what topic do we want to hit while we're discussing this?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I think Scott was touching on the idea of the importance of kind of like maintaining other things than just art, which is kind of an interesting topic. Making those things as, important, or like at least including them in the list of successes and goals. There was also just the idea of like getting in the right head game, but I feel like that's treading on territory that we've already kind of covered. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm down with that. So let's go back here. So today's topic is how to balance and get things done in art, but also in all the other things that you need to do. So, Scott, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So I guess what brought this whole topic up was I there's some home improvement stuff I've been putting off for a really long time, and one of them was to kind of redo some kitchen remodeling, not like mate. I don't know if you could say maybe major, maybe basically stuff I can do myself. Like I was basically refinished my kitchen cabinets, and foolishly I thought that I could sort of do that in a weekend, and it ended up taking over a week. Which I probably should have known, but I'm not. I mean, with artwork and stuff, I'm pretty good at gauging how long it will take. But things like that, it's just that I don't do all the time, not so much. So I was kind of like, oh, even though it's fun for me because I'm doing something I don't necessarily do all the time, and I'm really happy with the result and the way it looks. But it just took so much longer that my artwork was getting pushed aside that I even coming to this art check, I'm like, well, I kind of failed this week because I didn't, my artwork kind of got pushed aside. But then I started to think that I really accomplished something big, something that I've been putting off for so long. And even though it took a week, I mean, I know, like, because my ex-girlfriend kind of did the same thing and a while back, and her kitchen was kind of, it was kind of, she worked on it kind of intermediately, and it was like that for like maybe a month or so. And I probably should have took that as a hint, but I just thought, well, I'm just going to bust through this. I'm not going to take like a lot of breaks, or, I'm just going to, because of course you have to wait for things to dry and all those other kinds of things. So you can't necessarily just push through everything. But yeah, it ended up taking longer, but now that it's done, it's like, whenever I walk in there, when you finish something, I mean, eventually it'll kind of go away because you'll get so used to it. But after you finish a project like that, and every time you look at it, you're like, yeah, it looks pretty good. I can't believe that's done now, and I don't have to worry about it. So, I was thinking, these are things that I really need to start making priorities, or block out areas of time to work on, whether it's home improvement, whether it's, going out and, with friends, or doing more stuff with my kids, or all those type of things. I think it would make sense to try to really fit those into the schedule a little more than I have been, because it's super rewarding to do that stuff as much as, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to do something for a living that I love to do with art and everything. So, but there's, sometimes there's more to life than just that. So,
yeah.
So the question I've got is, how do you balance that with resistance, which can often come in the form of like a really deep-seated desire to do things that you've been avoiding. Like if I've got to do, if I'm going to go in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff done on my projects. I've got everything lined up, and I really, need to make some progress. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, what'd be really cool is if I sharpened all the pencils in my house, or if I, did all the dishes all of a sudden, or, like there's kind of like,
boy, like those cupboards that I've been meaning to reorganize for a year suddenly look really appealing to reorganize. Yeah.
Right. So how do you balance that idea? Because it's an interesting, it's kind of an interesting concept.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, if I would have known it was going to take over a week to do it, I probably wouldn't have done it. So maybe it was good that I thought it would only take a week. Yeah. So, and then I get, and as you do it, you kind of learn, you're like, okay, it takes a lot. It's, just things I didn't consider, like installing all the knobs and the hardware and drilling those things, and having to take the time to measure it, make sure it's right. Because once you drill them, if you mess up, then you're in trouble. So luckily I didn't. But that stuff took a long time. Just putting all the hinges and thing back on, and and then after I got all those up, I'm looking at some of the the walls and stuff. I'm like, well, the cabinets look great, but some of these other walls are kind of scuffed up. So figured, well, I might as well touch up that and just do some other work in the kitchen. And Josh was talking about organizing cupboards, and I'm like, well, since I've got all the doors off and I can see all this stuff in my cupboards, I need to start getting rid of stuff and organizing things, and then also the cleanup. Like my garage is still a huge mess.
Yeah.
So, if I didn't know that, I probably wouldn't have taken that on. So I think I kind of strayed away from the original question, but what was it?
So yeah, I'll rephrase the question.
Okay, yeah.
The idea is basically like, I will do almost anything other than sitting down and getting the work done that I need to get done sometimes,
Right.
And so my question on anytime that we talk about anything along these lines, I think it's good. I went probably 2 months without mowing my lawn this summer, and that wasn't good. I got a ton done. I was able to, finish an animated short that is now award winning, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, like, my wife was embarrassed about what our neighbors thought of us. And so, like, I could have balanced that out. But at the same time, I've also done things where I haven't gotten much done because for weeks on end, I am doing all kinds of things that pop up that I wouldn't normally do, and so my question is, how do you gauge or balance when it is resistance and when it's something that you need to happen? Because I think equally on the opposite side, of avoiding doing your work is only doing your work to the destruction of the balance in your life and your relationships and your job. I mean, I recently saw on Twitter somebody who said, hey, just, like, give it a half a effort at work so that you can really pour your heart and soul into your personal project. And I find that to be horrifically dishonest.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some sort of balance. And that's what I wonder. I wonder about how you come into play with, getting the things done that you need to get done, getting the stuff done that you want to get done, and moving forward on your projects at a pace that makes sense for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for whatever reason, I'm pretty good at not like doing a lot of extraneous things, like things that just are kind of a huge waste of time. I mean, I do to the point where sometimes I just feel like I need to sit and relax, and maybe watch TV or something like that. And I've been asked about that before, like, well, how do you do that? How do you get so much done? And, I don't know. It's just wired in me or something. Not that there's other things. There's always distractions and things like that. Like, but it's usually, I get distracted by like other tasks that need to be done too, that aren't like, just useless things that don't really need to be done. I don't know what that is. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain, but so,
Yeah, I mean, like, so I got a couple points. Like one is just touching on what Scott was talking about at the beginning. I think it's really important to kind of schedule things that are priority to your life within your schedule as well as art. And I think the first 10 or 12 years of my life as a freelance artist, when it was just full bore illustration design, I just kind of did illustration and design and cartooning to the detriment of everything.
Yeah.
And I saw some of the repercussions of that, like in friendships and my relationship, in my own mental health. Like, you can go too hard. Like, and what's weird is you can go too hard to the point where it actually becomes a detriment of the work that you're going too hard for. Like, you can actually get in a bubble where your life is so based on work that it actually causes your work to suffer. And so I've caught myself there before. And because of that, I really do find it to be really important to have certain things to fit into my schedule. and make them like non-priority things, like, you know, time with my son, that's non-priority, like not non-priority, non-negotiable. So it's a non-negotiable is time with my son. Like every night I read to my son, come hell or high water. It's going to happen every night. I have a band that we write and do music, and I prioritize that as a really huge priority. And it's mainly because the people that I'm in the band with, I'm friends with. So it's time with my friends, and I do that once a week. And I think that's really important for mental health, to have some time with your friends. And if you're like we are, I think, like the way we're kind of built to be creative, if you can make that time where you're actually making something, awesome. So that's a huge thing. There's so many things around the house that I need to do, like that. So to me, like you talking about refinishing cabinets, it's like, I think for anybody who's a homeowner, it's like that kind of thing is inevitable. Like we have a backyard that needs to be completely landscaped. We have like a garage that's a mess. It's just collected stuff since we moved here. And like, I've been gradually just chipping away at that, like every single weekend. And I do try to dedicate time every single weekend to work on that, even if I'm chipping away at it, because it is important. And then just maintenance, like maintaining a house, you know. But I totally see what Cory is talking about with that, because that's a struggle of mine, just knowing resistance. It's like, especially those big projects like this comic, I would say today, the point where it kind of crossed over for me was the point where I'm cleaning the garage, which is something that needs to be done. And when I'm done with that, because of a flight of fancy, because I'm like, I wonder do I need to throw this guitar away, or like, is this something I should give away? Or like, I wonder if I could actually just fix it up and make it a decent guitar again, you know?
Yeah.
That's where I'd say I kind of was just giving into resistance and not doing the things I knew I should be doing. And instead just kind of chasing a flight of fancy, because do I need like that particular guitar? No, I have a great acoustic guitar. I don't need another functioning acoustic guitar. Now, if that were a priority and it's like, hey, I need a backup acoustic guitar, I'll make this a project, then I can schedule it in, you know. But I feel like in that case, even though I had a success at it, when I was done with it, it's not like having my kitchen cabinets refinished, but it's like something kind of important. It adds to the value of your house, you know. Like, it was just kind of like, well, now I got another guitar that I have no, you know, it's like a hobby kind of thing. However, I am realizing from that, like, you know, I think my hobby, more than like playing video games, is probably going to be like refurbing and just messing around with guitars, like, because I really enjoy it. And I do play them and use them. So, but for me, I think the catch is like, I think if it's starting to detract from the work, it just depends on like the priority. Like if it's detracting from the work, but it's something that's higher up in your own list of priorities. Like for instance, for me, family is like, my immediate family is way above my art in priority. So if there's a conflict there, I tend to sway towards family. And so if that's like, my wife needs the garage like to be functional and clean, then I need to make that a priority. You know what I mean? But it's really hard to know when it's resistance or not, because a lot of the time resistance can have you doing a lot of great things. Like, you know, like when you sit down to the art table, I've definitely had those moments where I've left a sink full of dirty dishes, and the second I go down to draw, I'm like, I should do the dishes. You know what I mean? Like, and then, once I'm done with that, it's like, maybe I should throw in some laundry. Because, you know, for some reason, the whole day I was comfortable leaving the laundry until I try to sit down and do art. And suddenly laundry is super important. And keep in mind, like, you do have to schedule laundry in your life, like every human being does. You have to schedule in doing dishes and doing, you know, priority, just basic life stuff.
Right.
But I think timing is a good giveaway. Like if it's literally like you're going to sit down, but there's this thing I got to get to, you know, I don't know. it's hard. I want to pin it down more than just a gut thing.
Well, I think part of what you said is super helpful in that I like the idea of always like weighing the consequences, and because consequences can be good or bad. And for example, I put off fixing our car for a while, and it caused a problem. Like my wife and I had words about it, and like ultimately I should have done that, and she's been waiting for me to do that for a while, right? Like about 6 weeks, and there, I got a lot done in that time period, but the consequences of that were that I was inconveniencing my wife, which isn't worth it. But like fixing the guitar at the end of that situation, had you thought beforehand, like, what do I get out of this? At the end of it, you're like, oh, I get like a crappy guitar that works again that I don't need because I already have something. That can help you weigh, that situation where you're like, nah, okay, so maybe I shouldn't do this. And it kind of reminds me of there's this Shakespearean, it's not so much a play as it is like a short. I don't know what you call it. It's not a sonnet, but it's like a short play called The Rape of Lucrece. And he goes in there, and there's this guy who is horrible. He's a horrible individual trying to weigh out in his mind whether he's going to try to overtake this woman or not. And he says, "What win I if I gain the thing I seek?" And I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's like a froth, a breath, something of fleeting joy, who for a moment's mirth, would be struck down, and all this type of thing. So he goes through and he basically is like, if I do that, I get, what are the end results of this thing? I've got to find the quote because I mangled it. But the end results of this thing are good and worth it and lasting, then it's probably worth doing it. But if the end results of this are, I get some instantaneous momentary pleasure and then I'm killed or imprisoned or, all this type of stuff. And so he's kind of going through and weighing the consequences of his actions. And I mean, that's a horrific, example to give, but I mean, Shakespeare is going through this process that I think is really helpful to be like, I want this thing really bad right now. What are the end results of this?
Yeah.
And if it's momentary, and then there's a bunch of negativity that comes after that, it's not worth it. But if it's lasting, and maybe there's some negativity up front, but it's lasting goodness after the initial negativity, maybe that's something that you should go for. And so I don't want to fix the car. I think it's miserable. I hate working on things. I don't like doing that crap, but 90 minutes of crappy stuff. And then I solidify things that helps people out that I love and that type of thing. It's great, but like spending a few hours on a guitar that you don't need, and at the end of it, don't really want or whatever, it might have felt good doing it, but the lasting effect isn't worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's weird because it's like, it's playable and I'll probably mess around on it and use it, but I didn't need it. And once again, if that's like a hobby, I need to schedule it just like it's a hobby,
right?
And not let it interfere with like the non-negotiables. And so I will say though, like there's also something to be said for like on this topic for like, occasionally having a day off is not necessarily like the most evil thing.
Yeah.
One thing I'm aware of though, and this gets into the resistance thing, is like I realize like tomorrow I'm working on creative work that is priority, that's important. And that's mostly going to be the music side of things, but that's like a lasting thing. Like we're actually making a record, and like whether other people find that important or not, I think it's important because we're making and we're making art, and I think that's cool and valuable. But if tomorrow or the next day I'm not back into working on the comic, I know that can become a year very quickly.
Right.
And so that to me is like the big cautionary tale that I think is really important for us as creatives to like always kind of have. Not that you should guilt yourself. Like here's the catch. I'll be honest. I don't really feel a lot of guilt about messing with that guitar all day today. I don't. I feel bad that I haven't done my comic, but I also feel relieved. Like I feel like and this could be resistance talking, but I feel like I really needed a day to just kind of goof off. And a lot of people on their first day of vacation will spend a whole day, playing video games or something. I spent most of my day like cleaning the garage, hanging out with my kid, and like, fixing up an old guitar and making it playable. So like I don't feel a ton of guilt. However, I do know how it works, and I know that like if there's a fine line between a break and completely giving into resistance, and it's a very thin line. So for me, I will be concerned. I hope you guys would be concerned if like it's like 2 days from now, it's not even a thought to like kind of break in like some time to actually make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Because in that case, that's where I got to start having that real assessment of like, is this the thing I wanted to do? Is it something I envisioned doing? Because if it is, I need to be doing it, We've talked about this ad nauseum, but like we've all known authors and writers and artists who, got halfway through their novel and then stopped writing. And you're like, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I want to write. I want to finish my novel. And you're like, okay, well, when was the last time you worked on your novel? Well, I haven't opened it in like 4 months. And you're like, well, then you don't want to work on your novel. You know, if you wanted to work on your novel, you would open it. Like, work on it.
If you wanted to do it, you'd do it.
Yeah,
for sure. I found that quote, and I love this quote, and I used to have it memorized. So I want to go in here. What win I if I gain the thing I seek? A dream, a breath, a froth of fleeting joy. Who buys a minute's mirth to wail a week, or sells eternity to get a toy? For one sweet grape, who will the vine destroy? Or what fond beggar but to touch the crown would with the scepter straight be strucken down? It's like one of my favorite quotes, and I used to have it memorized, and it's been too long.
I like it.
I got to rememorize it again. But yeah, it's just a good reminder of like, weigh the consequences. And sometimes the consequences are, if I don't take a break, I will break. I don't think that everything that you do has to be productive. I actually think that's an unhealthy way to live. And so like oftentimes I will play video games for a couple hours, maybe once a week, every other week or so. And I can tell by the way that I feel, whether or not that's in excess.
Yeah.
And at times it's like, I turn on an audiobook. I hang out with my daughter while I play Rocket League, and then she goes to bed, and I play for a little bit, and it's great. It's really relaxing. It's a nice way to unwind. And it's really nice. And there are other times where it's like afterwards, I'm like, just kind of in this like daze of,
like what do I have?
Like numbing fog. This is another thing that I find really useful is if you're using the behavior to numb something, then it's always a negative behavior,
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant because like I do think that is a real, like even today, part of why I don't feel any guilt or whatever is when I was done, I didn't have that moment of like, what have I done? Like I literally have that when I binge, and and I would actually consider that like a binge where it's like, if I just play Final Fantasy for like a whole day, and then I'm like, wait, what was I like? What happened to today? And like, the other thing is like that weird feeling and question of like, what am I left with? Like, meaning like, when you're working on a project, it's like you finish and you have this sense of achievement. Whereas a lot of those fleeting things, you're just kind of like, you have this brief moment of joy, and then you're like, well, what did I get? Like you do end up with this feeling of like, well, what's the payoff now? Like that was a lot of wasted time, you know? And so I do think that's a huge thing. I think Scott's thing is a perfect example too, because that's something where, you know, like a year and a half from now, you're not going to like walk past that and be like, what did I do? You're going to be like, thank God I took care of that, you know, like, cause that's just that kind of stuff. Like you gotta keep up, you know, you gotta kind of maintain the stuff you have, like, and sometimes that means like doing mechanics on your car, and sometimes it means, you know, like refinishing cabinets and stuff. For us, we bought a house that's in okay shape, but you know, it's got some stuff that really needs reworking. And we knew that going in, but like a lot of that stuff is sitting for when we have the income or the time. And those, you know, I do think the idea of like scheduling that in equally is a smart idea. Like it's also smart to schedule that kind of thing so it doesn't consume the entire thing, you know, like if you don't schedule that stuff in, art could become like this all-consuming thing where everything goes by the wayside. And then like the basic things, the necessities of your life, like can fall apart while your art is being achieved, which could then be really detrimental to your own health and your own well-being, right?
Right.
And similarly, if all you pay attention to is like all the home upgrades, like, you know, as homeowners, I think we all know, like that's a rabbit hole. Like you could end up, you know, oh, what are we going to get? I'm going to get new doors and I'm going to like rework and then it's like, well, the windows could use better sealing, and that like the whole thing could just keep going eternally forever. So scheduling that also gives you the brilliant part of like limiting it, right? Because you could be like, okay, well, I can put an hour in on this tomorrow, right? As opposed to being like, you know, booking. Yeah. So I think that's actually pretty brilliant. But yeah, you're right about it being really hard to kind of measure the balance between.
Yeah. And I think this is good. The key is to try to adapt with change. Victor's saying this in the chats. Priorities always change at some point or another. Like Bruce Lee said, you have to be like water. And I really like the idea of bringing in kind of the martial arts or athletics or whatever into this discussion, because like I never did martial arts, but I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and you have like ready position, which is pretty basic in most sports, where your legs are, your feet are about shoulder width apart, your chest is hovering above your knees, you're kind of in a crouched position, and you're lower and your knees are a little bit bent. But while that is a good basic position to be in most situations, like depending on what happens, what your teammates do, where the ball is, what the other team is doing, what's going on, you have to react. Like you're in that position so that you can adjust and adapt. Not because that's where you need to be and that the ball is going to come to you. It's like you're there ready and aware to make the adaptations and the changes that you need to make, rather than what they call being on your heels. And I'll tell a fun story. So I am not tall. I'm 5'6" on a good day. And I had a roommate in college who he was just like one of those dudes that was just like super attractive. The girls would just fall all over themselves just to talk to him. And he was like 6'3", and you know, I mean, just but the greatest thing, I really liked this guy. He was a super nice guy, but I also really enjoyed you know, dominating him in things. And we were playing volleyball, and I got a hit where I was able to from the back row kind of leap across the back row line and spike it. And it's called a tattoo. I tattooed him, which is I nailed him right in the chest and just flattened him on his back, and he slid back about 6 feet because I hit him so hard with the ball. But had he been in ready position, ready to adjust, you know, he would have been able to pass it. But because he was on his heels, he wasn't ready to adjust and wasn't expecting it to happen. And so it's not that you need to like be a precog and like know what is going to happen, but it's that you need to be in a position where you're ready to assess Like, right now my relationship with my wife is more important than this, or right now I need to make sacrifices. And I remember I had been working super hard on when I first got into illustration, I was doing this web comic, and I for a little over a year, I was producing like a full colored page a week. And that included like the writing and the illustration and the ink and the colors and everything. And I was really proud of like those 66 pages that I was able to do. But to be able to keep my job or to apply for the position that was a more permanent position, I had to get a master's degree. And so I looked at everything in my life and I said, full-time job, full-time family, like comic work, this, that, and the other thing, church and whatnot. And something had to give. And so I had to hit pause on my personal project for 14 months while I got a master's degree.
Yeah.
Because it was an untenable situation. There just wasn't enough time to do it all in the day. And I literally had to like schedule out like an hour of time to spend with my family every day and whatnot. But that was an adjustment that I needed to make, and I was ready to make it, but it was a really hard decision.
Yeah.
And I actually have never come back to to that comic, even though I really love that story. And one of these days, I've rewritten the first couple chapters, but you have to adjust, and you've got to prioritize. And there are times in your life where school is going to be more important than things, and work is going to be more important than things, and family is going to be more important than things, and personal projects can be more important. And I actually think it's pretty rare where you have to eliminate a major thing from your life. But sometimes you do have to do that.
Yeah. And kind of on the same note, there's this great Eisenhower quote where he said, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable.
Yeah.
And so the point of that is like, it's important to plan. It's important to kind of schedule things out. But at the same time, like if you're hedging all your bets on everything going to plan, you're heading to failure. So it's like you kind of do have to plan as much as you can and plan knowing that a lot of those plans are going to fly out the window when it's game time. And and that's good. All right. Anything else we should kind of add to this topic before we kind of wrap it?
Balance is good. I don't know, Scott. Josh and I have been talking for a while, and you got yours out in the beginning. But any final thoughts?
Not other than just I'm really gonna I'm gonna kind of go back through my Trello board, because I do kind of, when I set it usually in the beginning of the year and we're getting close to there, I do kind of set that aside. I set that stuff up, and I do have, there is home improvements and everything on that board, but for whatever reason, sometimes I don't even go back and check it. It's just kind of like it keeps getting pushed back. So I think really trying to focus on everything as a whole, even though, I have these to-do things that just kind of get pushed aside. But like Josh said, I accomplished something that now that it's done, it's something that, it's not something that's like, if you say you want to learn how to cook a really cool meal and you cook it and you eat it, and that was a cool experience, but it's not like a lasting thing. This is something that's going to, be there for a long time. That's kind of a cool thing. And there's some other things like that I want to do too. And, really get my house to a certain point where I'm kind of happy with it, because I used to do that kind of stuff all the time. And then I got to a point where I did a lot of that stuff. But then as time goes on, whether styles change or things get run down or whatever, you kind of have to revisit some of that stuff. So
yeah, no, I'm with you on that, because I want to Marie Kondo a lot of this crap in our house. I think the key takeaway from this that I have is, like, first off, I need to get back kind of on track with my own work by, I'd say, at minimum, like the night of our next art check. Although I don't know if we're art checking, because if you're in a blizzard, man, maybe we should skip it for Thanksgiving and come back.
I will be in a blizzard tomorrow night. I will not be in a blizzard Wednesday night. So
all right,
we can do a quick one. I'm down for a quick one.
We'll do a quick one. So Wednesday, either before or after the art check, I need to have some progress on quarterly. But also I do need to schedule in more of that kind of working in the house, and like even things like I'm realizing I really enjoy kind of working on guitars. Like it's kind of a fun thing, and it's something I make art with. So like I should actually include that as my downtime, and then like I think between that and the Mandalorian, I'll be pretty good for my free time.
I'm impressed that we have gone a whole show and not just talked about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I could do that too. That's like the one show that like I usually get into like one show before. I think the last show I watched was The Dark Crystal, and now it's kind of Mandalorian, because I don't watch a whole lot of TV other than just stuff in the background while I'm working. But yeah, that's one that I definitely have to sit down and watch, and I'm digging it. So
yeah. And for those watching, without giving anything away or getting too in the weeds with it, we'll just say, if you get to the third episode, that'll get you in. If you're a Star Wars fan, I think that third episode will be your complete buy-in.
Oh, I think the first one will get you in.
Each one is really good, and it's one of those shows where it's like, oh, it's over? Oh, man, these are so short. I mean, they're 30-minute episodes, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, it went so fast.
Yeah, I feel bad. Like when I first, I don't want to get too much of this, but like my Roku was out of date. So I had signed up for the service and everything, but I couldn't watch it till like, it was probably 4 or 5 days in. It was, I think the second episode was out before I got to watch it. So I tried to avoid spoilers and everything. And I was lucky enough to do that. But, and there's one spoiler, it's almost the kind of the main crux of the thing, that it's kind of unavoidable. It's all over the internet. If you haven't seen it already, you're lucky if you if you don't want to see it. But
if you haven't seen it already, you might not have electricity, and you might.
Well, no. But here's the thing. Disney Plus, if you're in like Europe or someplace, Disney Plus doesn't come out till like next year. So it's like, how do you?
But Twitter still exists, and So
that's what I'm saying. If you were in Europe and you wanted to avoid that spoiler, you're pretty much out of luck, because you can't avoid that. So yeah, I don't know.
All right, we're getting way in the weeds about Mandalorian. We
just need to have an after show about Mandalorian.
We could work that into the art check, just analysis of the Mandalorian.
Do you want to spend 5 or 10 minutes on that? We could put a limit on it.
Oh, you guys.
I don't know how you could talk about without that one major kind of spoiler.
Well, we just give a spoiler warning. If you get out. If you haven't seen it, go watch it and come back.
All right, spoiler warning. We'll give it about 1, 2, maybe 5 more seconds.
We need like a spoiler warning label or something.
Okay. We've given spoiler warnings, so now we're going to spoil. All right.
So go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, I go into it thinking that this is going to be a Western, which it kind of is, but then it ends up being like Lone Wolf and Cub. So it's like, and I'm digging it. It's like, I was not kind of expecting that.
That's what I was talking about with the third episode. It's like the first, it's like kind of establishing it. It's interesting. It's like, okay, I'm getting this. It's going to be like a bounty hunter in space kind of story. And then the second, it's like, okay, that's an interesting twist. The third is where it like solidifies, oh, it's Lone Wolf and Cub. Like, this is brilliant. Because like that, to bring that narrative like that and the road, like the whole kind of, protector, like traveling with like this vulnerable, infant or child. It's just like, it's such a good twist to have in the Star Wars universe. And that's a plot that you can go so long with. Like, there's no real end to that plot. Like, and I
don't think anyone
similar, like not not Lone Wolf and Cub, but a similar plot device where you could continue that formula for episodes onto existence, the traveling, thing. And this is a really,
yeah. I mean, Josh and I think Josh was slightly shocked at my, the depth of my knowledge of random Star Wars species and history. And I will say that I want to know about Yoda's species and have forever. There's two things that I have always been, ever since I was a kid, super interested in. Who are the Mandalorians and what is going on with that, right? And what is Yoda? And then there was a little bit in the 90s where we had Yaddle, where somebody came along and they were like, all right, let's make like a younger Yoda. And they came up with this character who didn't look like Yoda. He was definitely the same Yoda species. We're pretty sure that she's a female. And then what I love about that is when they decided, okay, if we want to make a younger looking Yoda, let's just give him sideburns. That's kind of what they did in the prequel, was they gave Yoda sideburns, and then that was younger Yoda. And the other younger Yoda design became Yaddle, which was a member of the Jedi Council until just in the first or second movie, and then she was gone. We don't know what she did or where she went, but she didn't die at that point in time that we're aware of, at least on screen. And then those are the only two known canon Yoda species, is Yoda and Yaddle. And then all of a sudden we get Baby Yoda. And that's the thing in this that I am so fascinated about, is I have always wanted to know about the Mandalorians. And if you're looking at the Clone Wars cartoon, there are two versions of that cartoon, and nobody remembers the first one, but the first one was legit. It was
the Tartakovsky one, right?
Yes, and it is so good.
I got that on DVD.
Yeah, me too. It is so good. I mean, that's where you find out that Mace Windu is a serious bad A, and there's like all kinds of stuff, and it is a significantly more convincing path to the dark side for Anakin, from Anakin to Darth, than anything that they ever did in live action. It's way better. And then Cartoon Network came out and they produced the thing, and there is this whole arc. I think it's in season 4 or 5. There's this whole arc about Mandalore, the planet, and how it's this old kind of warrior state that was then turned into a democracy, that then was being overthrown by like this undercurrent of people who wanted violence instead of wanted peace. And so then there became this inner struggle, and you learned a ton about Mandalorians. And so I've been super interested to see what's going on, because are Mandalorians genetic, or is Mandalorian a lifestyle? Because in this one, I don't know if the main character that they call Mando, I don't know if he's genetically Mandalorian, if he is an orphan that was raised under the Mandalorian code.
Talking about younglings or foundlings.
Foundlings, right.
And me, I'm like, so does that mean that this is kind of like it's definitely clear that there's like a religious element to like the armor and like the fighting and stuff like that. But what's interesting is that also how you become like a Mandalorian? Like, does it only happen with like is it some kind of adoption scenario?
I watched a whole listened to it. It's on YouTube, the whole and there's probably a few of them out there, but documentary, and some of it's not canon anymore because it's from Legends, but yeah, they go through the whole thing, and some of that at one point it was sort of a race, and then
careful, Cory, flagging.
Yeah,
I know, I'm gonna get flagged in, but if it's only a couple seconds, maybe they won't.
But
sorry, go ahead.
No, so I think at one point it was sort of a race or like a planet, like you said, and then it kind of transitioned, and they go through the whole history of everything.
Oh man.
But as far as the Yoda thing, I personally don't want to know more about. I think some things need to be mysterious, and that's one of the reasons why I'm glad they didn't make a Boba Fett story, why they picked a different character, because we kind of already learned about Boba Fett's history from the prequels and stuff, which
I think just story wise, like, I mean, it would be tough because they'd have to go like way pre-Sarlacc pit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I think we can like confidently say that Boba Fett is one of the lamest Mandalorians that's ever existed. I mean, he's all talk and no action. I mean, he basically sort of got like kind of bumped into like his death. You just sort of like, it was like, oh, and he's dead all of a sudden. Every other Mandalorian that has showed up is
that was an introduction to where there's now a series called The Mandalorian because enough people thought he was awesome.
But I will say this. I just want to real quick. The Mandalorian, the character in this show, he's a badass, but he definitely has his moments where he fails or whatever, and I like that. I like it. There's definitely a lot more human moments. It's not totally badass, and that's the end of it.
100%. The thing that's also kind of outstanding about this show that I was really impressed by it and really hit home on the third was the fact that they're getting so much emotion from a blank mask.
Yeah.
Like they're like missing the big identifier of an actor, which is just like you're never seeing his face. And yet they get so much emotion out of him just from like the way that they're filming it and the angle that they're doing it and like all the kind of silent cues. I don't know. It's just very impressive that they can get that much emotion out of like just a mask that's like with no face.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
If it was a Marvel movie, they'd have to keep taking off their mask or their helmet or whatever.
Yeah. But I like it, and I keep kind of hoping they'll never remove his mask. Like I hope the series ends and never really see his face.
I think they're going to remove it.
Yeah,
I'll put money on it, and I'll tell you why I think they're going to remove it is because they made it a big deal that he hadn't removed his helmet.
Yeah, and also that actor is like, from women I know in my life, especially from Narcos or whatever, I guess he's very attractive to women. So I would imagine they probably want to cash in on that at some point.
Sure. Okay, I have two things to say. One, Boba Fett didn't cause everybody to be excited about Mandalorians. The design, the character design is what did it. Like, it's a legit looking dude. I love how he looks. I love the armor. I love the helmet. I love the lore. I love the mythos of it. But like, he was the lamest bounty hunter. Okay, there's that.
I have one last question though. Oh, well, hit your second.
Okay. My second one, I can't remember.
Oh,
dang it. I had one and it was, what were we talking about? Because it was something. Oh, right. Scott, you were saying that he's flawed. The thing that I find interesting is he's mainly really bad at fighting non-humans. So like he's pretty decent in a gunfight against bipedal people, but as soon as you put him up against like some sort of creature or something, it like immediately starts kicking his butt.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but yeah, that's kind of true.
So, okay, other weird thing, and my wife and I were kind of noticing this on the first episode. So, do you think that like they all learned from Boba Fett the carbonite thing? Because like the carbonite thing wasn't Boba Fett's thing, and Boba Fett was actually kind of pissed that Solo was frozen in carbonite and concerned that.
Yeah, I was curious about that. That seems like a little bit of fan service, but I like it. But yeah, because that wasn't, because he wasn't even sure if he'd survive, so that had to be a new thing that they, So, but you could see how the
crew and go like, dude, okay.
No, because here, I'll answer that question real quick. I mean, obviously, Jabba was the big thing. He was who's running now that he's dead, who's running the galaxy as far as the
Yeah.
underworld. So you would have heard about Han Solo and how he had this trophy, and then that was probably what the word got around, like, oh, this is a good way to like transport,
Yeah,
fugitives or
kind of
whatever.
I kind of bought it. It still had my suspension of disbelief, but the nerd in me was like, wait a minute, that wasn't a Boba Fett thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question though. Now that we're way in the weeds,
All right.
is Jabba a big deal? Like as a kid growing up, it seemed like Jabba was a big deal, but like when you think about it, he's kind of stranded on a random desert planet that no one really cares about.
Yeah,
And
that is
he
because
runs
However.
that planet well, and a lot of his relatives have kind of a network of the huts on other planets, but like they're nothing like it's not Yondo, that's the dude, but the pirate dudes, those guys are all over the place, but like he's kind of locked.
Yeah,
I've
well,
always gotten to read that like the huts are like everywhere and nowhere at the same time. They're like the new organized crime of syndicate of that, like to me, I feel like he's out in the middle of nowhere because it's like the Godfather kind of hiding out and pulling his strings, but like the strings extend throughout the whole universe.
Also, Tatooine, although it's like out in the middle of nowhere, the planet that's farthest from the center of the galaxy, according to Luke and everything, but there is that spaceport, there's Mos Eisley, and it seems like that's a place where sort of the underworld people go. Like there's a lot of travel to that, probably because it is sort of on the outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and again, this isn't canon anymore, but I remember I've been listening to, there's somebody's animating on YouTube, they're animating Heir to the Empire, that sort of that first Star Wars set of novels that happened after, which isn't canon, but happened after Return of the Jedi. And there's a whole thing about, I guess Han Solo is trying to recruit pilots, and he's talking to people in the underworld, and he's talking about now that Jabba's gone, who's the next person in line, who's the big honcho now. So, I don't know. I always have the opinion that, I understand what you're saying about Tatooine kind of being out in the middle of nowhere, but I think Jabba's sort of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's Outer Rim,
right?
Also,
for sure,
including the prequels, right? Like, don't forget, like he was the guy who commenced the pod racing ceremony. So,
which also was
in Tatooine,
something that kind of happened on a planet that no one cares about, made out of like junk racers from.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the Indy 500. It's more like that kind of like truck rally that happens in the middle of Kentucky that people are like, yeah, I'll go see it. It's cool. There's nothing else to do. I'm in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So sorry to everybody in Kentucky that's watching.
I still think he's like the Godfather in the galaxy. He's just he's the silent hand.
In the Clone Wars, there is the most flamboyantly gay version of a Hutt that exists, and he wears makeup and everything, and he is hilarious.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm retreading that ground. I finally swallowed my pride and was like, I will bear through the prequels again. And but now I'm on Clone Wars because I'm going to do the whole thing canon in order. So
we lost a significant portion of our viewership.
Yes, we should call it.
All right, so we probably should have done this before, but where can we find your work, Josh?
You can find my work at joshuakemble.com and quarterlystories.com, and hopefully I will be posting more work towards that comic being done by the next Star Check. So
awesome. And Scott, where can we find your stuff?
You can find me at circworks.com. I'm also Circworks on YouTube.
Okay, and you can find my stuff at CoryKerr.com and also on Twitter and Instagram below Josh right now. So we'll see you guys in a couple days. Thanks for sticking with us. Victor's still here, which is awesome. And we'll catch you guys on Wednesday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Bye.